All right, well, it says it's supposed to be recording, and it is recording. All right, so let's start this session on treasurers, and our presenter tonight is Jamie Zinn. Jamie is currently the district treasurer for how many years, Jamie?
Since 2012.
You're muted.
Oh, no, I'm not muted.
Still muted. Okay, you should be.
I heard her.
We can
did
hear
too.
her. Can
I
you
don't
hear
know,
me?
there's some kind of spirit working around here. Can you hear me, Jamie?
Yes.
I can't hear you.
We can hear Jamie.
While can you guys hear her?
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe turn your sound up, Marilyn. Maybe your sound is down.
Well, I've lost my ability to hear you all. This is
Somebody
amazing.
somebody chat
Okay,
with her.
but we'll move right on. Jamie is the district governor nominee. She will be the district governor for District 5330 in 23-24. So congratulations to Jamie. And
Thank you.
with that, let's have you begin. And I will share the screen. You'll have to give me some kind of high sign, Jamie, to change the slides.
Will that work? Okay, maybe it won't work. I wonder if she can see me. Can you see me?
Marilyn, can you hear us? Can you hear me? No.
Let me ask her if she wants to try to share the screen.
Anyone have her phone number?
Good idea.
Nope. Sorry, guys, we're working on it. Let me try to call her.
Hello.
Hey, can you hear me or can you see me when I try to signal you to change the slide?
I've been watching, but I don't see you signal. I apologize. I can hear you on my phone and I just heard you momentarily on the screen. So let's try it again and give me a thumbs up when you want me to change the slide like that. Okay?
Can you see that? Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We'll go ahead and get started then. Okay, so great. Welcome, everybody. I know some of you have been treasurers for quite some time. Some of you might be new. So welcome to the world of being a treasurer. It's once you start that job, I think you have it for life. So get ready for the roller coaster ride. So to start with, we'll just talk about some basic overview. So of course, with your board and with your club, financial leadership is really important. Obviously, like anything else, we have to have a goal. We have to know where we're going. We have to know where we've been. So as the treasurer, your board is going to look up to you to have a thorough understanding of the financial reports. A lot of people, as you well know, on the boards, maybe they haven't been business people, maybe they're not familiar with financial statements. So it's something that they're going to want clearly explained to them in very simple terms. norms. As a nonprofit, it's also important, you need to keep financials so that, if at some point in time you're ever audited, you can show exactly what has transpired. Also, as a nonprofit, your financial records are open to the general public who may or may not want to look at them. So, it just depends, but you really need to ensure that you are keeping good financials. Another thing is communication. You need to be able to translate this again in a way that they can understand it. You need to ensure that every aspect is being touched upon. How are you spending your money? Where is it coming from? Is it coming from dues? Is it coming from fundraisers? Be very specific in where it's coming from.
Okay,
A lot of
yeah,
times,
they might not have emailed that to you, so yeah, sorry about that.
Well,
Jamie, please ask them to mute themselves.
okay, could everyone please mute your screen for voice? And if you have a question, raise your hand or let us know, please. Continuing on, so you need to be able to also interpret the board's questions, understand what they're asking. Is it goal related? Is it regarding the financials, the financial situation? Is it regarding the organization as a whole? And be able to take that information and put it back to them in the terms of whatever financial data that they want to know. Next thing is planning. It's very important that you be involved in the planning process, and not just for the current year, but hopefully your clubs are working on a strategic plan. If they don't already have one in place, we of course would encourage you to do that, and that should be anywhere from a 3 to a 5 year horizon. And in that, you need to also plan for your financials. Where are we today? What funds are we going to need? What project are we going to do? And what time frames do we have to have those monies in to be able to support those projects? So you can really bring a lot of value to your club in the planning process. You have the historical information. So when start doing the planning, bring in that historical information, let the board know so that they can determine, okay, is it going to be like this year? Or again, like when we had the pandemic, obviously that was an anomaly year. And so that needs to be communicated to your board if you're using figures, say, from 20 and 21. And then, of course, your budgeting. Budgeting is very important. I don't know, every club does it differently. Some have like retreats for their board, and collectively they create the budget. Other clubs, their treasurer completes the budget and then presents it to the board, and then the board massages it from there. So there's not necessarily any right or wrong way of doing it. You just need to make sure that you're consistent in how you do it and you're following your bylaws. And so hopefully each of you as a treasurer should have a copy of your bylaws so that you understand what processes have to be followed, how often information has to be provided to your club, and then of course any other requirements that your club has for a treasurer. And then, of course, one of the last things is strategy. You want to look down the road to help people find options to fund projects. You want to be involved and look at what's coming from district and what's coming from Rotary International, because we will continue to share with the presidents, with your President Line, your board, what are the things that are important? What are the things that we as Rotarians are trying to accomplish in the Rotary organization as a whole? And so we're here to help you identify what those things are, to help you plan. And we have people in every area, whether it be membership, treasurer, secretary, vocational service, you with all of those things. So please do feel free to call upon us if you're working on your planning or having a strategy session. We're happy to be there and help do that. Okay, next slide. So financial leadership. So again, responsibilities: develop a budget, manage your funds, collect and submit dues to District and Rotary International, working with the Rotary Foundation. Right now, your president-elects are working with Don Casper, who is our current district governor-elect. He'll be district governor next year. They are working on all the goals, one of which is the Rotary Foundation. And that would be our Polio Plus goal and our annual fund goal. So, please work with your foundation chair to make sure that the Rotary Foundation is being addressed, as well as, of course, many of you have your own foundations. So it's important that you address it there as well. And then last but not least, mentor a successor. If you've come into this job and you didn't have any mentoring, you probably have a little frustration now and again. So I think it's important that we work with someone in our club. Many clubs have a 3-year succession plan. So, the first year they're learning and working with it. The second year, they're actually being the treasurer. And the third year, they're working with someone who's now going to take over. So that's great if you have that type of plan. If you're a treasurer for life, I encourage you to participate in the district assembly, participate in the other programs we have to make sure that you're staying current on any of the new laws that change that you need to be aware of and to comply with. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about more specifics as far as the treasurer. These are a lot of the questions that come up from the different clubs as I speak with them. So what happens if a member is delinquent on their dues? The place you're going to go to is your bylaws. See what your bylaws say. Hopefully it's in your bylaws. If it's not in your bylaws, I would encourage you to put that as a note and bring it up to your board. We should have something in all of our bylaws that does say what's going to happen. The main reason we want to do that is, number one, we want to be consistent, we want to be fair, and we want to make sure, obviously, that we're treating everyone the same. But there's also discretion that has to be done, especially when certain club members might have financial difficulties. But when they are delinquent on their dues, you still need to pay district dues and you need to pay Rotary International dues. If they are delinquent, your club needs to make a decision. Are you going to put those funds in advance for that Rotarian because you want to maintain them in your club and work with them on paying you back? Are you going to, possibly have a benevolent fund in your club that you can draw from, but put down whatever it is and make sure that you know how you're going to handle it if they're delinquent, including sending letters, following up with them, whatever that might be. Reporting to District and Rotary International. So every semi-annual period, you are going to get a report from Rotary International. It's called the SARS report, but you can also access that electronically through Rotary International, and that's going to tell you what your dues are. That report that you get from Rotary International, if the number of members that they're billing you for is not correct, you're going to pay whatever is on that report. There cannot be any adjustments to that. So it's very important that you make sure that your membership stays active and correct. Some clubs, they have the treasurer and secretary do it together. Some clubs just have the secretary. Whatever your process is, just make sure that it's correct so that when that report comes out, you have the correct number of members. The question has come to me, can I short pay that? No, you can't. If you short pay your invoice to Rotary International and the payment is not made, you could be, over time, if you don't pay that, you could be subject to being suspended or your charter even pulled. That doesn't happen very often, but it is something that could happen. district, we will send out an invoice, and it will come after Rotary Internationals, because we get our numbers from them. So we have to wait until they issue their report. Then we will issue an invoice, and that invoice is emailed to the president and to the treasurer. So please make sure when you're filling out your information on DAC DD, and then also for the directory, this would be your president-elects that would be doing this, that we have the right email addresses, because that's what we pull it from. So you'll get it via email. So please look for that, and then you can send a check, and you can pay online. There's many options for you to be able to do that, and we'll include that in our invoice. Reporting. So each month, the board should get what I'll call a financial packet, and in that packet, you should have a income statement, or we'll know it also as profit and loss. So that's showing all your income and expenses, and then you should also have a balance sheet, which will show all your assets and liabilities. A lot of people today, if you're not using the financial module within DAC DB, the most prevalent software program that people are using is QuickBooks. So I've been encouraging to use one of the programs, whichever you're most comfortable with. You're recording there. We'll keep a historical record for you, and also it will easily, once you put everything in, you reconcile it at the end of the month. It can produce a myriad of reports, not just an income statement and a balance sheet, but it can also keep track of, members. It can give you a lot of other reports that you might be interested in seeing, both historical and current. Are there any questions so far? I just thought I would stop a minute and check with that. Okay, we'll keep going. So financial records, you should keep financial records, tax returns forever. You want to keep your tax returns forever. The physical backup data, you should keep those a minimum of 4 years. You can now keep everything electronically, both the IRS and the franchise tax board, except electronic. So you don't need to keep all the paper files. Scan them in, whatever you want to do, but keep 4 years of the actual physical supporting documents. As far as regulatory reporting, so every year you have your tax returns that are due.
Jamie? Jamie,
Yes.
could you have Marilyn go down a slide? Thank you.
Hello, go ahead. Susan, did you have a question?
No, I just needed you to go down a slide. We were on, how long do we keep?
Hello, now I am like missing people. Can you guys still hear me?
I'm sorry, did I do that?
I can hear you,
Oh, okay.
but
You
I
can
don't
hear
know
me,
what
Marilyn?
slide- I don't know what slide Jamie is on.
She
That
was
one.
talking about how long to keep financial records.
Okay, I think we're on the right slide. I'm not sure. Yeah, here we are. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so financial records, like I said, keep your supporting documentation for 4 years. The regulatory reporting, the IRS and franchise tax board, those tax returns are due each year. Our fiscal year ends are June 30th. So the first period that it would do would be 5 months after that. So November 15th. And then you can still extend it out if you need to. So I don't know if your clubs, if you're doing it yourself, or if you're having an outside preparer help you, they can help you file extensions if you need to do that. So make sure you turn those in. You also have to file a statement of information every 2 years. And you need to make sure that you do that. That's the minimum. If your officers change, you have to file it then every single time your officers change. So The requirement is every 2 years, but if your officers change, you got to do it every year because you need to have a current officer listing on your statement of information with the Secretary of State. Independent review of your books. Now, there's a couple different ways to do that. Some clubs, depending on size and financial ability and what have you, they will actually have an outside source independently review them. There, you can do it that way. You can also create a review committee, if you will, in your club, and that they can be the independent source to do that. Again, this goes back to your bylaws. You need to check and see what your bylaws say. If it doesn't say, it just says a financial review, then you can choose whichever method you want to do that. But your bylaws may be very specific. So if they are, you'll need to follow that, or, you know, bring it to the board and club and have a change to your bylaws. Next item is your role in risk management. So it's very important to ensure that there is not risk being taken, if you will, with your finances. Doing that is putting things into what we call dual control. Make sure that you don't have the same person getting the mail, collecting the payments, posting the payments, reconciling the books. If you have one person doing all of those things, you're not mitigating risk. You're actually creating more risk. In small clubs, I recognize it's difficult to sometimes separate that risk. But I would encourage you to think about how you can do that. And if you need some thoughts on that, I'm happy to help you at any time. You can just give me a call. Okay, so some best practices. So again, collect and record dues from your members. Using one of the software programs is the easiest way to do that. You have a history of it. You know when you collected it. You know how, cash, check, you know, Venmo, credit card, whatever it is that you use in your club. And make sure that you make your deposits timely and that you pay your bills timely. You know, we don't want Rotary getting a bad name because we aren't paying our bills timely. Make sure that you're reconciling your bank accounts every month. And a lot, I have seen, I shouldn't say a lot, I have seen clubs where they're like, it's out of balance, $15 or $20. I'm just going to write it off. Okay, that's really a process decision from your club. However, I would highly advise against doing that. I mean, everything should balance. If you're checking everything and marking your deposits and your bills, making sure what you wrote it for is what's in your register and what's gone through your account, you should be able to find those differences at the end of the month. Work with committees to make sure your budgets are adhered to and variances are reported to the board monthly. Now, I understand, say, for example, like during the pandemic, we had in a lot of clubs where they still had expenses, but they had very little income. So when they were doing their reports at the end of the month, you know, there would be the variances. So those reasons for the variances should be noted. You know, maybe you didn't have the level of income, but you had donations that were made to the club to help offset some of those expenses. Make sure that's included in your board reports. So when you go back historically, you know why, you know, your income was less than your expenses and how you ended up covering that, or you took it from your reserves, whatever the situation might be. Provide a budget to actual report for the board so that they can see how are they running against budget. Are they behind budget? You know, are they over budget? And if they are over budget, why are they over budget? Was it a budgeting issue or was it an overspending issue? One of the things that you can do, and a lot of clubs have done this, is you may be running behind on another line item and you know you're not going to spend it. So you would then talk to the board and the board can make a decision to say we're going to utilize X funds from this line item to cover the costs of this other line item. That would be a forecasting issue. You can do that, but just make sure that you are noting that you're doing that and why, so that if anybody looks at it in the future, they'll understand. And then also, if your books are being reviewed at the end of the year, whoever's doing the review will understand what decisions were made and why. And then as you're budgeting, make sure you're budgeting within your budget, and then whoever your successor is going to be, help them with that. Show them the budgeting process, explain it to them, and have them work with you on it. Okay, so another big question that comes up are bank accounts. Now, some clubs have a club, and some clubs have just that, and some have a foundation. You cannot commingle between the club and the foundation. A club is a 501c4, and a foundation is a 501c3. They're separate entities. So you never want to make transfers between the two. Can you lend money from one to the other? Absolutely, you can do that, but you need to ensure that you put it on the books exactly that way, showing it a loan coming from, either the club to the foundation or vice versa. And then when it's paid back, obviously, writing the check back to the one to pay it back. Just make sure your trail is really good on that. So have separate bank accounts, make sure you keep them separate. Don't transfer between the two, because obviously a lot of them are at the same bank, but you don't transfer. That will create a really big issue for you, both legally and from a regulatory standpoint. Make sure that there are processes in place, again, for receiving the funds. One person pick up the mail and they give it to somebody else to deposit it. Some clubs have an outside firm that are doing it, so that's even better. You've got that firm who is completely responsible for it, and takes that accountability. So just make sure you're doing that. With respect to dispersing funds, you want to make sure you have a process in place for appropriate approvals. And again, this goes back to your bylaws. Ensure that in your bylaws, it talks about, do we have one signatory or do we have two? And if we do only have one, what limit can they sign up to? When is a secondary one required? And then what are the approval processes? Can the president just approve it up to any limit, or does there have to be board approval at a certain level? For instance, another thing is, when you are going out, say, to do a fundraiser and you have to purchase a product of some sort, let's say it's shirts, for example. Does your bylaws say, or your policy say, that you have to get multiple bids? So if it does, make sure that you're getting those multiple bids. And if it doesn't say that, I would suggest that maybe you think about that. Do you want to make sure that you're getting the best pricing? Do you want to get multiple bids? So just make sure that, you're adhering to the policies that you have for dispersing the funds. And then make sure that you're adhering to the laws regarding donated funds. So people who, I'll use the word donate, which is really not right, but they will say, oh, I'm going to donate to the Rotary Club, which is the 501c4. You can donate, if you will, to the club, but it's not a donation. They cannot get a tax deduction from that. Okay, so if someone is giving money to the 501c4, most of the time it's like a business who's doing it, and they're writing that off as a marketing or advertising expense or a sponsorship of something. Those would be, the right ways to donate to a 501c4. If you're going to have somebody, of course, make a donation to the 501c3, absolutely. They can make the donation, and you need to make sure that they receive a letter at the end of the year, or you can give it to them throughout the year, whatever your process is, but acknowledging that donation, your club name, your club tax ID number, and acknowledging what it is that they gave you. If it's something that you have a receipt on, you could state in the letter, X dollars, or they gave you physical cash, you could state X dollars. If you are unsure of what it is, then you just say, thank you for your donation, of, this piece of fine art, whatever it might be, and let them put the donation amount onto it. Okay. Make sure that you're registered with the appropriate agencies. So of course, you have your tax ID number for your IRS and your franchise tax board, that you're registered with the registration of charitable trusts. You want to make sure that you're doing that. And then of course that you're filing your statement of information and that you're considered active. Now, the only people that are not going to be filing a statement of information are going to be the folks that are what we call a group exemption. And if you look at your tax return for the IRS, in the upper right-hand side, maybe a quarter to the third away down the page, you will see something that says group exemption. And if you have a number there, then that means that you're organized under Rotary International. So you're not going to show in the Secretary of State database here in the state of California. So just FYI, because that sometimes is a big question. People can't find themselves, and that's the reason why. Okay. Let's see, where else are we at here? Excuse me. Make sure that you always use written and signed contracts. We've had some clubs that have gotten into situations where it's the handshake, and then come to the end of the day, there is a dispute over what has transpired. So use written and signed contracts. If you're doing it for fundraising, if you're bringing somebody on to help you with your website, whatever it might be, and make sure that you keep those contracts in your historical files. Again, you can keep them electronically and they still would be valid as time goes on. Okay, again, we talked about the independent review, managing your foundation to the proper laws. If you have more questions on that, I'll give you my phone number here at the end. Feel free to reach out to me. Happy to help you, or you can also send me an email. Make sure your semi-annual reports are reviewed with the secretary to make sure everything is up to date. We do see at the end of every semi-annual period a very large drop-off of members. Please try to keep your database updated throughout the year, and not just like, wow, at the end of December and the end of June, you make all these adjustments. You run the risk, number one, of not doing it in time, and you end up getting billed for all of those people. The other thing is it's really hard to manage your numbers and know where your membership numbers are, and for the membership chair here at district and for district itself to be able to help you with your membership throughout the year. If we can see what the trend is, we can reach out and provide you whatever support you would like us to provide. So if you could do that, that would be great. Make sure that any electronic or paper files that you have are organized, that there's more than one person who knows where they are and how to access them, so that all of a sudden, if something unfortunately happened to someone, we don't lose all those records. And make sure that you maintain them and pass them along to whomever your successor is going to be. I would also encourage everyone to participate in a visioning session. We have a few folks at the district level who would be more than happy to come out and help you do that. It's really a wonderful exercise to go through, and really helps you focus and the board focus with the club members on what it is you want to do and where you want to go and how you want to get there. So feel free to give us a call, and we'd be happy to come out and help you do that. And then also make sure that your board has adequate insurance coverage. So you all know that we have insurance coverage that we pay for through our annual dues to Rotary International. That covers, for most everything that transpires. However, we do recommend that you look at the insurance coverage you have for your directors and officers, and also when you have your fundraisers. A lot of times you'll have a lot of volunteers from other organizations that might participate. You might be serving alcohol, things like that. It could be in your best interest to get a auxiliary insurance policy. You can get those online. One company that I have used in the past for district events is a company called RV Nuccio. And you can get 1-day events, 3-day events, whatever it is, very inexpensively. And it will give you that extra coverage so that if something happens with volunteers outside of Rotary, there is that coverage there. So I would encourage you to look at that. Okay, next is district grants. So the district grant process is obviously happens every year. The district governor will get what the incoming funds are, and it's based upon what was contributed the 3 years prior to their incoming time. So Dawn will be getting that number. And then once that number is obtained, there's an amount that goes back to the clubs. There's a 3% administrative fee, and then there's an amount that is done for VTT. So that money will then be dispersed. The foundation chair, who currently is Steve Yeager, and it will also be Steve Yeager next year, he will send out a report, and it will go to all the presidents and to the foundation chairs of every club. And he will tell you, how much DDF each club has. So once you get that, then you need to create your projects, fill out all the forms that are necessary. Once that is taken care of and it goes through the process of approval, Steve will then issue me a list to say, here's all the clubs and here's the amount of their DDF. Once we receive that, we will check to make sure that the club is still active with the Secretary of State. You cannot be a suspended corporation in the state of California and receive funds. We'll make sure that your dues are paid with Rotary International. We will also make sure that they're paid with the district. And then we have currently on file for all the clubs so far, since we've changed to ACH, we have all their banking information. If we don't have your banking information, we will reach out to you with a direct deposit authorization form and ask you to provide it to us. If you have given it to us in the past or you change your bank account, please reach out, let me know that you've done that, and I will send you a new form to fill out so that we have your current information on file. Once we have all the information, then we will send out all the DDF funds by direct deposit. If for some chance it goes out and the account is wrong, well, hopefully it's right. But if it is wrong, we'll get notified from the bank, then tell us that that direct deposit did not go through. We'll reach out to you. We'll either get the new account number or we will send it to you by check, whichever you prefer. You will get an email when that direct deposit is done, and that email will go to the president and the treasurer again, confirming that the direct deposit is being made and the date that you'll see it in your bank account. So please, when you do get that, make sure you check your bank account and that you see the deposit come through. Because DDF comes from Rotary International, it must go into your club account. It cannot go into a foundation. That's been a question that's come up several times. So if you wanted to go to your foundation, that's fine. You can do that. We have to send it to your club, and then as a club, you can write a check and deposit it to your foundation if you're using it for your fundraising event or whatever you're using it for. So if you have any questions, if you need any forms, if you know now that you need to update your checking, my address is 5330treasurer@gmail.com. Just shoot me an email, let me know, and we'll get that off to you. You can usually expect to see your DDF roughly, I'd say mid to latter part of November. If we have the information earlier and everything is done and approved, then of course we'll distribute it as early as possible. But it's been mid to late November, pretty much on a consistent basis. Next thing is the check request form. If there is anything that you need to have reimbursed by the district, there is a check request form. You would fill that out, tell us the amount, who you'd want it payable to. Direct deposit is our preferred method. It gets to you faster. You know, when we get it, it's a 2-day ACH deposit. So you can definitely get it a lot quicker. Just so you know, requests received by the 1st of the month, the payments are made on the 10th, and anything received on the 15th of the month, the payments are made on the 25th. So, so those are your key dates. Make sure you get stuff to us by the 1st and the 15th, and you'll get it by the 10th or the 25th. And the form there has, you can fax it, you can email it, you can certainly send it to us, but hopefully you can fax or email. That would be the best. And make sure you have your supporting receipts for whatever you're asking for reimbursement. If it happens to be an event, for example, the polio plus event that we were going to have that we did not have. If you're paying that through like PayPal for your club, or your members are paying it, whatever it might be, we will reimburse it directly the way we received it. People send us checks, we'll send them a check back. So, you know, once we have that information from the district governor, then we put it on our schedule to reimburse everybody for those things. So that pretty much covers everything that I wanted to go through. Last slide here has our contact information on it. Next year, because I will be district governor-elect, Kimberly Marcelletta, she is going to be the district treasurer for next year, Dawn's year, and she is going to be the district treasurer for my year. She has been working with me for the last 6 years. So she knows the job like the back of her hand, and she'll be a great resource for you the next 2 years. And of course, I'll still be around and help her if she has any questions. And the work phone number that's listed up there for is good for her. That is her work phone number. For me, that work phone number is no longer relevant. Please call me on my cell phone, which is also listed up there. Does anybody have any questions? Anything they'd like me to go through? I guess not, Marilyn. I
No.
think
Jamie, hold on.
Could you put your
Jamie?
screen back up?
Hello, Jamie.
yes.
This is Frank Lembo. I'm a new treasurer for Lake Elsinore Rotary.
Uh-huh.
And we have, what I'm looking at is different dues. We have different dues for different members. Like if a member goes on leave of absence, they pay a certain amount, a certain dues.
Yeah, we have some clubs that do that where they have
Right.
different due structures.
Was one of the members brought up for married couples. They were asking why both married couples have to pay the same amount, and because they're married in Rotary, can it be changed so that there's just one fee for both of them rather than the separate fees for each one?
So if my understanding is if they are individual members, they both want to be a member, then they would both need to pay the dues separately. There are some clubs out there that treat it, if you will. I don't know exactly what they call it, but like a corporate membership where you pay one membership fee, but one person attends one week and the other person might attend the other week. That's an option for you if you want to try something like that. But if they both want to be members and they both want to attend, from RI's perspective, they're going to charge you dues for each person.
I see. Okay.
So
Yeah,
you
'cause
might
I
be
heard-
creative.
I heard some clubs do have a married dues, but
Well, I mean, you could call it a married dues, but understand that if you call it a married dues, if you put two people down, you're going to get charged by RI for two people, the same as district, because we take our information from RI. So maybe they call it married. Maybe is the club, do they charge them less and the club is subsidizing it? Do they only have one name down? I think maybe there's some more questions to ask on how they really administer that.
yeah, I'm not familiar on how they do it. I was just somebody had brought it to my attention that she heard there were, some clubs have a married couple rather than pay independently. So
Right, right.
I belonged to a club that had a different rate for a spouse, but actually what was happening is that just the club dues were reduced because the other Rotary International and district dues had to be paid in full. So that way they're both individual members of Rotary, but they got a little bit of a price break on the club dues.
mhm. Okay, thank you.
Susan, you have a question?
Well, no, just remark. One thing you can do with Rotary International is not to pay for the magazine. And that's about it. As long as the address is the same, then you only have to pay for one per subscription.
Thank you.
Other questions? Well, you covered a lot of material, Jamie, and very in-depth. And I'm sure that if you are, how many of you are going to be new treasurers? You haven't done the job before? Okay,
This is Frank Lembo. I'm a new treasurer and I haven't done it before.
just Frank? Well, you got a bunch of experts here. Be sure you get their names, Frank.
I'm probably going to need some help.
Especially Jamie's name and her contact information, because she knows this inside and out. And there's a lot to being a treasurer.
There is. I was a treasurer back in the 60s, and that was the last time that I was treasurer. And it has changed considerably.
Yeah, a couple things have changed since the 60s.
I'm also wondering about DAC-DB. Do they have a financial, do they do financial accounts? Like,
There's a financial module in DAC-DB, yes.
what is it based on? Is it based on like QuickBooks or?
It's not like QuickBooks. Is there anybody out there who is using DAC-DB right now? Anybody who's on this call? Marilyn, do you see anybody?
No,
Yeah. DAC-DB, a lot of people like to use that because it is integrated with all the other information within DAC-DB. My personal experience with it is not as robust and as easily to use as something like QuickBooks. I would encourage you, if you're interested in it, to reach out to Michael Soden, and he would be happy to walk you through a demonstration of it, and then maybe you could compare that with a demonstration of QuickBooks. And if you need that contact information, I'd be happy to give it to you.
Yes, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, I will email it to you.
Thank you very much.
Michael Silk is very, very responsive. I've called him a number of times and he can be very helpful. Okay, somebody had their hand up. Was that you, Linda? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I did one of the trainings that Michael does a lot of trainings and his staff do a lot. I did it just the other day. And they are having a special on the other modules right now. It's called President Select Special. So they're like 50% off some of the modules for the year. So you might want to look into that if that interests you.
Jamie, does DACDB have a training module on their financial module? They have a lot of
Oh,
videos, I know.
Yeah, they have a video. I have not seen Michael or any of his staff do a training specific to that, but good idea. I'll pass that along to him.
Any other
Amy, thank you so very, very, very much for this training. We really, really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Anytime.
Thank you.
You know, I think we are in good hands with Jamie as our treasurer, and I can't remember the first name of the lady who's going to be taking over next year. What was her name?
Kimberly.
Kimberly. If she's been doing things with you for the last 6 years, we're also going to be in good hands with her. I feel very, very secure in the knowledge that the district's financials are in order and up to date. And I've been in more than one district as a Rotary member, and sometimes that's not the case. So we are very fortunate to have experts helping us with this. You have Jamie's email address and phone number, cell number, so that if you need to contact her with questions, you certainly can. And I don't believe in drawing us out so that we fill the full 60 minutes. So if there's nothing else that you want to comment on or any more questions that you have, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Again,
Amy, could you put the display again for her number up on the screen?
oh yeah, right. You want me to get this back? Let me see what I can do, if I can do this. All right, I'm gonna have to go back to screen share.
Or Jamie could just tell us.
Yeah, Jamie's
Sorry.
phone number is
Yeah.
909-499-4746. That's 909-499-4746. And her email is 5330treasurer@gmail.com. Anything else? Okay, then. Thank you all very much for taking time this evening to get up to date on your treasurer's duties. I wish you the best. Again, this will be, I'll send you a link for the, I always want to say Facebook, and that's not correct, for the YouTube video. So that if you want to review this and the slides, you'll have the opportunity to do that. And if for some reason, because my sound was all messed up, there's not a full recording, you will certainly get all the PowerPoint slides. All right, everybody?
Can I bring up
And
one more
Thank you,
thing,
Marilyn.
Jamie?
Sure.
Can I
Yeah, go
bring
ahead.
Jamie, this is Frank Lembo again.
Mhm.
Can you send me the form for changing accounts? We're changing accounts for checking accounts for DDF.
Yep,
Can you also email me that form?
I can.
Thank you very much.
And
All
thank
right,
you,
my
Marilyn, for
pleasure.
hosting this. That's really special. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jamie?
My pleasure. All right, everybody. Good night.
Thank you.
Stay safe. Bye.
night.
you, Marilyn. Thank you, Jamie.
Good night. Thank you, guys.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Take care.